today, uh, talking about leveraging the power of digital twins to maximize facility operations. So, any of you that know me know that operations is my passion, and maintenance management. And now that I'm working with, starting to work with digital twins, that's even in growing that. So, uh, as we start looking at twins and moving data and talking about data, this is where we're going to go, because like you're going to see cubes all throughout this little presentation today. And I'm going to call it a talk because it's not really about software specific. It's more about some processes and thoughts and how we're going to look at the data in the future. And like this cube right here says warning water pump, that follows through, the operations, the maintenance, and the overall aspect of what is going on with this pump. How can we look at this pump and how can we keep this pump from failing with some predictive analysis? And that's kind of what we're going to go through. I'm Mark Morganchair. I am the customer success engineer for BIM 360 Ops. I've been at Autodesk for 2.5 years now, after 23.5 years in the industry. And actually tomorrow starts my 26th year. And a friend of me reminded this weekend that 30 years ago this year, we actually created a hamburger for a restaurant food chain. I worked in their test kitchen. Yeah, I started in fast food before I got into the design, construction, operations industry. And we learned, but we held a process. We formulated ideas. We looked at all of the data. We gathered industry research of what the people wanted for a particular burger at that time. That burger is still being sold in that fast food chain today. And as me and my friends were talking about that this weekend, I compared it to the building industry today. If we hadn't had complete data, if we had incomplete data, we wouldn't have been able to build what we built 30 years ago for that restaurant. And that's kind of how today is as well. If we don't have all the data, if our data is incomplete, even what we do today in our traditional processes today, the data doesn't work. But what happens when we get to digital twins with incomplete data, or non-organized data, or unorganized data, or just not delivered data? 95% of the data that is in our industry goes truly unused. And so some of the thought processes we're going to talk about today is how can we transition that data? How can we start looking at facilities in day one? How can we even look before day one as the digital twin, as Autodesk Tandem, BIM 360 Ops, which is what this kind of call is focused on today, the processes that we deliver for digital twins so that we can work on this 95.5% data. I want to see that number go down. I want to see us be able to focus on the digital data, to be able to understand not what we need to deliver, but what you need to operate, or what your client needs to operate. We can deliver gigs upon gigs upon gigs of data, but if it's not usable, if it's not needed, it's wasted. So that's what I want to talk about today, is thinking about the digital twin for operations, where we can connect the twin so that we can truly maintain the equipment, and then we can make informed decisions. And yeah, this is a little different than what Bob and Tim give the other day, because I am looking not at the right now. I'm looking at the 5-10 years down the road. How is that building going to be maintained? What decisions do we need to make about that building so that we can get better results? And where I focus, and where I was focused early in my career, is around this plan, design, build. And then as I moved through my industry in about 2008 or 2009, I started focusing on this asset management piece and trying to figure out different processes through this design and construction, commissioning, and handover piece. And we all struggle with this digital environment, with the digital asset, the handover and commissioning. When do we get paid for that closeout documentation? When does that owner need that closeout documentation? What do they need? This is the level right now that we're truly at, and that uh, all of us admit there's a struggle. But as we transform to a digital twin, we're going to be able to look at so many more aspects of the operation. We're going to be able to look at the asset inventory from inside the twin, from inside Tandem in a different, unique way. And then as the twins mature, we're going to be able to look at the space planning, look at the space utilization, and truly tie it together with the predictive, with the planned, and with the on-demand maintenance. But then again, how do we fine tune our spaces? And how do we fine tune our maintenance management? How do we fine tune our handover? And better yet, how do we fine tune those renovations or those shell outs, or even the knowledge of our building? How are we going to fine tune that? What are we going to do to fine tune that? And then tying all that portfolio analysis together, looking and planning for the future, that's where the power of what we do in our industry today. I mean, we have some really cool toys that we can play with. We have some really cool software that we can play with. But are we maximizing that for that 80% of the value of a building? We focus so much of that 20% right there. And with the digital twin, we're going to be able to focus on that 20%, but then we're going to start adding this 80% in and helping the VDC specialists, the design specialists, the architectural engineering, the consultants better understand, so that that owner and this team can make better decisions about capital planning. Truly looking at the rounding of the assets, understanding the full life cycle, and moving that way. I've seen truckloads of data being dropped off. Now, granted, it is the legal documents of our day, or PDFs in this format, in a 1 gig PDF of operations and maintenance manuals, or a 1 gig PDF of spaces and room names. Is that really truly usable? Have we really thought about that? Is that a challenge? And then when we move to the digital twin, are we focusing on the way that the data can be used? Are we breaking the data up? Do we have master O&M manuals? But then do we have the separated manuals for each individual asset, or each individual asset type? And is that data tied and linked, or part of that asset? How is that happening? Because we need to, so part of this is I look at this building from a technician's point of view. How is a technician going to gather me better data so that I can better manage my building, my digital asset? And if we as an industry can start putting better data and understandable, usable data in the hands of that technician, think of the value that that's going to add along the process as we move toward digital twins, as we have access to that data, as we have these data containers, these data warehouse, these digital assets, and put that into the people's hands who need it. So digital handover, the digital twin, we're looking to harness BIM and make this a highly repeatable in a natural part of our life cycle, a part of the project life cycle. Because now we all know it can be cumbersome. We all know it can be frustrating. We've got to find a repeatable process for this, for the owners, for the handover, so that they're getting the exact same information on all projects, on all building types. For a campus scenario, most of you know, that have heard me on this call before, I have a passion about healthcare. The healthcare industry needs the data. They need it formatted in a way that they can use it. And that's where I see the digital twins moving forward. So talking about ops, this is my specialty, maintenance management. I really want to focus on maintenance management. Here, talked about these cubes. What if we could actually reach in and pull the data from this cube? We could start looking at temperature ranges of this pump. We could start looking at pressures of this pump. We could start looking at levels of the, of how this pump is supposed to be operating. Is it pushing too much pressure? Is it not producing enough pressure? Sorry, naturally my lawn guy shows up today. So BIM 360 Ops is a cloud-based solution, and we focus on technicians, owners, managers, and vendors. So like this graphic shows, we want when ops, Tandem, the digital twins, other CMMSs, space planning tools, capital planning tools are all brought together. We want to be able to reach into that twin and pull information out of it just like this. We want to be able to look at that flow meter, whether you're a technician, whether you're an owner, and make better decisions about our building. And then ops, we're placing detailed data in the hands of the people who need it. Like, if that heat exchanger, if the inlet temperature is running too high, like right here on our graphic, we want to be able to pull out a ticket automatically on that heat exchanger so that we can react, and then we can start making analysis and making better informed decisions across all of the stakeholders, not just one or two. So we want to be able to plug and play with all of these devices. Ops, it's organized by dashboards, displaying, asset information, ticket information, graphical warnings, and then also being able to read sensors, tying in that Internet of Things and being able to harness the power of our operations tools, our building management tools, our building automation tools, being able to have these generate automatically and allow our facilities people, allow our operations department, allow our space people to know, hey, we've got an issue in this space. We've got an issue with this piece of equipment. And each will know their individual role. And that's what ops really focuses on, is plugging and pulling and playing the correct data at the correct time for that specific user role's need. And then, scheduling, so that we're maintaining the building the exact same way. We're maintaining the operations. We're doing the inspections. In healthcare, we're doing the environment of care analysis the exact same way. And looking at our rooms, understanding and plugging and playing with each one of these blocks. So with ops tying to the digital twin, with CMMSs, with space management, we want to be able to connect all of those people so that they understand the information, so that's readily accessible. This is going to allow them to have smarter operations and leverage that data in the future, so that we can look at assets, we can look at spaces, we can look at rooms, and so all this data is talking together. And then in the end, this digital twin operations is truly an operational twin, and not just a maintenance twin, or not just a space planning twin. It's truly a building analysis tool to help us make better decisions. It gives us greater insight, and really it helps us future-proof the digital asset, and better yet, that building. And for me, I was taught very early on, coming into this industry, of Mark, let's design, let's build, let's operate this building, like my mother is going to be working in that building. My mother's going to be in that hospital. Our family is going to be using this building on a daily basis. So therefore, I want to have that building maintained. I want to have that building in the best condition it is for my family. And that's the approach I've taken. I get asked, what's the passion behind all this for you, Mark? Well, that's the passion. And then, I know a lot of you know about my Arkansas Children's Hospital project. That's the passion behind all this, because Arkansas Children's actually takes care of my son. They actually help me with my special needs son. So therefore, this allows me to bring that approach to people like you on the call, that I can help get a better understanding of what you need and what we can do to help maintain the building and work on a process for your specific facility or campus. This is just some of the benefits of ops. I put this in the presentation just so they'd be there. We're truly trying to focus on operations with ops and maintaining this digital asset, tying this into Tandem as Tandem moves forward, and really becoming a cohesive tool of asset inventory, an amazing asset viewer, and then an operational tool that's going to come with Tandem in the future, truly trying to help people better understand what's going on. So leveraging this, how do we leverage it? What do we need to start looking at now to leverage this data? And this is a little different approach than I have taken. With Tandem, we're going to start looking at, if this component fails, what is affected? Where are the assets and how do I access them? How does the built asset perform against my desired outcomes? So what I like to say here is, in a fire scenario, that tamper switch, that flow switch goes off. It goes to the master fire alarm control panel. We shut down smoke dampers. We shut down some air handling units. Our smoke compartments are activated. Our doors shut. How do we know where all that is, other than just in our head? What if we could graphically see something like that? What if we could see that everything that is affected when the water flow switch on a fire sprinkler system goes off? That's where I want to work with Tandem in the future. Smarter operations, greater insight. Or say we've got to take down an air handling unit. See what all spaces are affected. Now, granted, we may know this, but we may need to have a graphical representation to show a C-suite or to show some executives at your building. Don't just think of this as you don't just think of this as, hey, this is going to be my little tool. We can use this to help educate others about the operational maintenance of it, other than just the operators of the building. It's going to be an amazing tool once it gets truly developed, as long as we keep our eyes open and we start truly looking at design, build, operate, and then planning for the future. But then as we look at the twin, the curation of the digital twin for Handover, we have some amazing data right now. It comes from BIM execution plans. It comes from life cycle, integrated life cycle management plans. Everybody, there are all kinds of things that we call these amazing data. I got sent a BIM execution plan yesterday with my name in it somehow. Not sure exactly how that happened, but it was kind of funny to see. But what if are those BIM execution plans, are they focused on digital handover for the AEC, or are they focused on handover for what the owner needs? Are we speccing the data that we need to hand over, or are we speccing the data that the owner needs us to hand over? So as we start thinking about these digital twins, how can we utilize the data truly for operations, and is that data formatted in a way that is usable for that owner? And so that this is the power of what digital twins, what Autodesk Tandem is going to bring to the table as we grow Tandem, as Tandem gets built out, as we introduce the operational features inside of Tandem. Was such a powerful tool. And it's going to take a different approach. And I would encourage you to go to the intandem.autodesk.com. We actually have our roadmap there. You can add to that roadmap so that you can start looking at information like this. We want to have this asset information model where, you know, the facility, the asset, the system, and the space, just like I mentioned in that fire scenario, you know, even emergency lights. Are we got the emergency lights kicking on when they're supposed to? Have they been tested? Has your exit signs been tested like they're supposed to be? You know, are your fire doors working correctly? Is your fire pump working correctly? Is, you know, is your spaces, you know, is your fire command center, is it on battery? Is it on emergency generator backup? Is it going to kick on? You know, what's in this space? What's the inventory that is in this space, and how is it tied back to all these other systems? You know, we've looked at this as a whole in our industry. I know I have. I know people on this call have, that I'm seeing that's on this call. But with the digital twin, it's going to take a tweak in how our thought process is. I know it is mine. You know, just this morning, I've had to tweak my thought process on workflows. I've had to tweak my process on how I think things need to be delivered, because this is ever evolving. We've got different means and methods. And the thing that so Alice, you cannot comment on this, but you know, I talk a lot, because, and that's the passion coming out of me, but I listen. I love to listen to people talk about our industry and what is needing and how everything needs to be connected, because there's so many brilliant ideas out there. And it's hard to encompass all of those ideas into one information model. But you as an owner, or you as an AEC professional, let's start working on what you need. Working with, and you as an owner, work with your AC professionals and start thinking about digital transformation and how can we get a deliverable to truly tie all this together so that we can light up in the digital twin. Hey, we want to see what we're shutting down or what has automatically shut down by our automation systems. Think even first responders. You know, think of fire people knowing where horizontal exit valves are. You know, being able to light those up and show those in the event of a first responder. We have the capabilities of a different thought process than what we've ever had before with the creation of the digital twins. I want to take advantage of that by leveraging all of this data. And here I've got BIM 360 ops maintenance data, but truly this is operational data. You know, we need all of this information as an asset. And some of you have heard my asset is an asset is an asset. It all is defined by what you want an asset to be. One of my most valuable assets in a facility is that technician. I think you know that. And if we can get the technician, you know, the system information, the type of asset, the parameters that they need to operate that asset, you know, the model, understanding if it's a, you know, understanding if it's a type A piece of equipment or if it's a type B piece of equipment, and then how it's contained in that space and what other space it may be affecting, and what contributors, you know, what's the historical of that asset. You know, does that tech know, hey, I've had to do more maintenance on this boiler than I have the other manufacturer boiler. Why is that? And do we need to replace this boiler to get a better return on our investment? And that's where we come into the performance and maintenance management, connected to the Internet of Things, connected to all these sensors in our building, so that we can come back to the asset to make better decisions. Now, I got asked just last week, all right, Mark, so this is all good. You know, we tie all this together, but what's really needed? What is something simple that we can work with? So this is what I look at as attribute sample. We need an asset number, whether that be a barcode, QR code number, an asset ID. We need it categorized so that we can be reporting, so that we can have unique numbers on this reporting for ticketing, for warranty work, for end of life use. We need to know the types, and types can be whatever you dictate as an owner. We need the room name, room number programming. We need the actual room name and room number, because we all know room names and room numbers get changed throughout the design and construction process. But what we need to start working on as an industry is getting those room names and room numbers, so that operations, so that facilities, so that space management doesn't have to waste all of that time in building their portfolio of asset information, where we can bring this from Revit or from the file types into the digital twin asset container and publish this out to the people who need it, instead of them having to go manipulate the data once it's given to them. Think of the value that right there is gonna bring. How many times have you had to change the room names, room numbers based on the signage package versus the room names, room numbers that are actually part of the design documents? Something to think about. So manufacturer, model, serial, original cost. That's something we don't see a lot in Handover, but what did it cost to buy that piece of equipment? That helps us later on with capital planning and return on investment. Estimated life. How long is that asset going to be in place for me? And then locations with, we talked about indoor mapping as part of this, having floors and room numbers, having that live indoor clickable map, not just a PDF, but a live geolocated asset model, asset map. And then also photos, videos. Normally I would put a training video on how to do maintenance on that piece of equipment, or how that room is supposed to be set up in the space planning, and then photos and videos of all that. So that's a quick sample. I'm passionate about this, but here with Tandem, what we're going to be able to do is, or what you're going to be able to do, is add classification systems, add parameter sets. And all of this is data sets that you can build for your specific industry. Like, like ASHI. ASHI has just put out a documentation on room names, room building names, clinical formatting for buildings. This type of information can be set up in here so that it's highly repeatable, it's usable for the individual building types, and then you can actually build a template for your campus, a template for all your buildings. They can be the same template with just a little tweak for what the individual building type that you have. This is what we're trying to gain with Tandem. We're looking at that data. Remember, I asked, what data do you need? That's why I asked that question, so that we can start harnessing the data that comes through, harnessing the data in the field, being able to connect the building commissioning tools, such as BIM 360, or I'm sorry, not BIM 360, but Autodesk Build Assets, being able to connect that to the the Tandem digital twin and use that data and push that building commissioning data to where it needs to go. You know, I believe that owners OPR and building commissioning is going to really dictate how these parameters are set, how these facility templates are made, and help better understand what data we need to collect out in the field. Because sometimes we collect all the data instead of just the specific data that we need, or we don't collect the right data. This is what we're hoping to change with the digital twin, so that we're truly trying the data container warehouse and pushing that data to where it needs to go in the future as Tandem is developed, as the digital twin develops, and as ops develops. So I know there's going to be lots of hopefully there'll be some questions on that. So connect and access. This is where I get a lot of questions these days. So how are we going to do all this? What are we going to do all this? You know, where's all this going to come through? And so here in the centralized location in Tandem, you know, we're going to be able to look at the smart devices, you know, the maintenance management, the building management, and other business information systems, because that is true. And then carry through that operational time series of events, and then actually be able to produce charts like this inside of ops, these heat maps of where our tickets are auto generated. These could be sensor tickets. These could be you know, reactive tickets. These could be on demand tickets, whatever you want to hear, and then be able to filter these maps, or look at the streaming data and look at analytics, see what's going on in June and July. You know, like right now, I've got a sensor running here at my house. The humidity here in Arkansas is through the roof. My humidity here in my house is through the roof. So I got sensors, I got tickets generated all night last night because it was over my set points. That's, if we're using this type of information in our homes, then why can't we use it in our buildings? Same simple setup. It doesn't have to be complicated. Like ops, when we pull a ticket from the automation system, it's not fancy back end. It's simply capturing the email alert that all of these automation systems send, and auto generating that ticket in ops. We're capturing the power of the maintenance management systems, using that power to generate these type of heat maps, and then in the future be able to look at these type of analytics and tie all of that together. So the predict and inform piece. So analyzing data and predicting outcomes. You know, this is going to be huge. Is this going to be a challenge? It's going to be a huge challenge, because we all know our systems don't always speak to each other like they need to. They don't always work in cohesion. This is going to be a challenge that we work on. This is a challenge that I am hugely passionate about, is to be able to timestamp all of this data and then be able to look at the analytics, be able to look at these charts so that we can inform about this building. That is where our goal is, to get to that autonomous twin, so that our building is thinking and reacting along with our technicians, so that we can start maintaining our building, maintaining our operations in a very efficient, a very smart way. So I want to show you ops for, so in summary, we want to help you specify your path to operational success. We feel like we can do that with the digital twins for operations, because we can make your operations more efficient. You're going to be able to take control of your outcomes. You're going to be able to understand your operations, which in turn, if we can get the digital twin up and operating during design and construction, actually even maybe before, during the concept page, and actually have it as a breathing tool through design and construction, so that operations owners are looking at this so they can accelerate their operations, get moving quicker, faster before a building is open. And then what this is going to do is if we can actually work on the operational readiness, the maintenance management, have the scheduled task, have the preventive maintenance up and running. This is going to reduce operating costs because they're not going to be looking for the maintenance data. They're not going to be able to looking for the operational data because it's all going to be in that twin. And then this is going to be hopefully make maintenance and operations much easier to do. So what I work on right now and what I am heavily involved in is, as you probably know and probably heard, is BIM 360 Ops. And so what we're trying to do with BIM 360 Ops is look at this data and look at the maintenance data. I am focused on maintenance data inside of Ops, but I want to be, like I said, I want to be able for my technician to touch right here and see what tickets I have that need to be worked on immediately right here at their fingertips, technician specific. They need to come in here and look and see what's going on with their daily rounding. Looking, seeing if belts are tight, if filters need to be changed, if the dry, what are the dry belts conditions, and then also being able to document this. The drive belt is frayed on one end, we probably need to replace it. And look, it even picked up my Arkansas accent and changed it to frayed. So, being able to take a picture and document, or a video and document that asset right there while we're directly in the field, pushing digital data back so that our management team can understand what is going on in the field and better understanding what's happening, what's going on, what's the cost of that? Is the cost of my maintenance actually what I predicted it to be? Am I going over in maintenance? Why am I going over on maintenance? But what I truly love about Ops, this is my favorite feature, and most of you know this about me, is these indoor maps. Being able to look at the tickets and being able to show what is going on each individual floor, and then turning this into a heat map and understanding my building, understanding what's happening, but then also looking at the assets, knowing where the assets are. Now, honestly, are our technicians BIM experts? Do we want our technicians to become BIM experts, or do we want them to be able to come in here and look at this mechanical room and touch this piece of information here and start looking, at all the information that we've got going on about this piece of equipment? How do we want to make all this work and understand? Or, do we want to be able to look at this VV box? Do we want to look at this security camera and actually open it up from right here on our iPad so that we can see what's going on in our facilities? And then again, do we want to be able to look at this air handling unit and then seeing what data is associated with it? What is our maintenance history on this? Being able to look at the history of this asset and being able to understand that all tied together in a digital format. And then also looking at our digital records, opening the manufacturer's website, opening the O&M manuals right here in place, and understanding our building, understanding what we need from an operational standpoint. And then, I mentioned sensors. So here you can see, I mentioned my humidity is too high. You can see right here today that I had a ticket kicked off at 12:36 p.m. Central Time, which is now 12:42, and you can see that it's in the cafeteria there. And just being able to understand data like this, getting this in automatically, understanding the alerts, and then if I want to assign this to a vendor right here, I can come in here, assign this to my vendor, and now my vendor just got a notification saying, hey, you've got a ticket that needs to be worked on. We need to get this figured out, why this sensor is going off. But using maps using our indoor location system, understanding where is this digital asset in my building. This is where we want to get. This is how we want to maintain our buildings. This is how we want to maintain our assets. Being able to see data all tied together in a digital format that's usable for owners and that helps it make sense for the technician. But understanding if we need, what we need for data, if we need barcodes, QR codes, who it needs to be assigned to, the maintenance history, the photos, videos, but then again, how is it being commissioned and how is it being worked? All tied together to the digital twin for building operations.